Hello good people and welcome back to Level Up Your Openings. Truth be told, I don't necessarily like to study or show aggressive, trappy openings because they rely on my opponent's blunders and less of my skill. But they're definitely still useful to know, especially in shorter time controls like Blitz, Bullet, and because they end in, well, tactical fireworks. So here I present a Spanish opening with white, and as white, there's tactical venom that you can induce by playing and punishing your opponent's blunders when they make these mistakes. I hope this is of use to you. Let's boost that ELO. Let's get it.
Round one, fight!
So quick recap if you're familiar or not familiar with the Spanish. The Spanish starts with e4, e5, knight f3, attacking e5, knight c6, defending e5, and bishop to b5. The threat is greater than the execution. You don't really want to take here. You want this to shuffle. So a6, bishop to a4, and either the opponent plays here or plays there, thereby. And your idea is to keep the bishop, push on c3, d4, that kind of business. So, first position. Oh, before I begin, before I forget, if you do find this content useful, it's tolerable, and it's helping in your chess journey, please leave a like and sub. You have my gratitude. Let's get started. So today we'll look at three positions, Ruy Lopez positions that are quite trappy. From the simplest ones to the more, wow, I can't believe that can work in this position ones. So let's start with the first one's e4, e5. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop to b5, a6. Attacked. Bishop to a4, bishop to c5. Here, castle king, and now b5. Bullying this kind of idea, but also just a good expanse. If the knight gets here, you could use this as a push. Here, knight to f6, attacking. Now you have c3. And usually, the idea is, of course, to push there on d4, pushes there on e5. Here the opponent plays d6, defending and preparing that. The thing about d6, though, is while it has this triple pawn trifecta, it leaves a square unprotected. And that's the c6 square, where your knight is. Here, a d4 is played, push, and h3, just preventing and prophylactic to bishop 2 at g4. In this position, black took on e4. And you guys remember this pawn that was protecting this? Well, it no longer is protecting that thing, your knight. So the answer after this, blunder in 3, 2, 1. How do you punish this? Well, simply the double attack fork. After bishop 2, just gobble the other one. And the game is yours for the taking because you're up a whole piece. So easy peasy. We're going to do a recap for each one. Second one, you saw nothing. e4, e5. Knight f3, knight c6. Bishop to b5, a6. Bishop to a4, f6, d4. Striking the center immediately. E takes d, and castle. Bishop to e7, rook to e1, defending. Castle king, and now push. And you want to ask that piece, where does it want to go? Knight to e8. All the other squares are kind of awkward in that respect, a little awkward. So now c3, sacrificing kind of another pawn. Takes and takes. You're sacrificing for maximum dynamism, piece activity per se. This is not developed. Your minor pieces and a centralized pawn hopefully will propel you to victory. d6, trying to establish this, but also just a central square. E takes d, knight takes d, knight to d5. And you could see kind of the idea here is to take and then check, because that's attacked. So b5. But then you have bishop to b3, now x-raying f7. In this position, the strongest move is, of course, this. Disconnecting the knight and the rook from this kind of trappy idea. But alas, black played h6 here. And you have a tactic called removal of the defender with a distraction. And what is that move? This opponent spilled the tomato sauce. The answer in 3, 2, and 1. Knight to d4. So you can't protect because then you get hit. But then if you take, remember that in between move, check. King 2, and then you just gobble up. I know it looks super trappy, but it's quite useful sometimes. Third position. Starts with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, f6. Without the a6 here, so you castle. Takes, the usual course of action. Rook to e1. And it's different here because you want to recover the pawn quickly. So knight to d6, attacking your bishop. Hit. You don't want to do this, of course, because the eval shoots to 11. And you lose your queen either by blockage, or you lose your queen because, well, you allowed that. Don't do that. Put up a fight. So block first. And now bishop to d3. Really awkward looking because you're blocking your the d pawn. But after takes and takes, castle king. Knight to c3. Again awkward because usually you want an exit square for this. Now you have c6 and b3. Now you can kind of see the idea here. Less of a direct influence in the center and more of boom, right? Knight to e8. Now bishop to b2. d5. Queen to h5. What is white trying to do here? The same kind of idea that you're trying to induce in the queen to h5 scholars. Not mate, but yeah, that attack where push, push, push. Yeah, it's kind of the same formation. And in this position, if black flinches with g6, it's crazy. It's absolutely insane, guys. Because now you have to consider this, consider that, and the influence of the rook on that file, and the passivity of the king. So what is the winning tactic here? The answer in 3, 2, 1. It's beautiful. And the answer is knight takes on d5. If you take, then you have knight to e7. And after that, rook to h5 with a check delivery. And what else? And after that, f6 to block. But you notice these two exit squares means this is the only exit square, which I'll highlight in red. And this is attacked. So boom, checkmate. And it doesn't matter. You take here, well, you're toast. The game's done. So after knight 2 takes on d5, what happens if black resists with queen takes on d5? Well, you just maintained the tension there. And ideas here while maintaining the threat there. Queen to d6. What is this mating pattern? It's called sacrifice the queen. That is a pin with a check. Have a boom there. Sorry, I didn't give you guys more time to solve that. But let's have a look. So quick position recap. I had to say that slowly. First one is e4, e5, knight f3. Knight c6, bishop to b5. a6, bishop to a4, bishop 2, c5, castle, b5, bishop to b3, knight to f6, attacking. We get a little bit of a d4 action there. Remember, boys and girls, when you push a pawn, the pawn or the square beside it gets weak and it no longer protects the diagonal prior to it. So d4, bishop to b6, h3. Blunderous, simple tactic. Punish it. Game over. Gobble up. That's number one. Number two, e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5, a6, bishop to a4, knight to f6, d4. E takes, castle, bishop, rook to e1. No pushes yet. Both are hanging to balance. Castle, king, e5, knight 2. You sacrifice the other pawn. Takes. And why? Because you're up in activity. You clear this. You hop on. You keep the tension. d6 takes, and then you have this idea of removing this defender with a check. So he deflects, then you have bishop to b3. And the strongest continuation is to block it, but they play h6, thinking you have any business in that square. So you remove this defender, you check first, and you gobble it up. That's the second position. The last position is crazy. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop to b5, knight to f6. No push here yet. Castle, king, knight takes, hit, boom. The trap, of course. Awkward, bishop to d3, takes, knight 2, c3, awkward, c6, b3, knight 2, e8, bishop to b2, both aimed, and now you have the trappy, queen to h5. If they play the tomato sauce, take, check, or gone, or check, king moves, check, block on f6, checkmate. If they take, queen 2, maintain the tension. If they move the queen, sacrifice the queen. That's a pin. That's a mate. Hope you guys get something out of that. I'll see you guys later. Please like and sub. Double peace.